After the Carolina Panthers hired ex-Indianapolis head coach Frank Reich, Steve Wilks put out a statement today. It was headlined, "Disappointed but not defeated." Now, this could mean a lot of different things. Well, this could trigger a lot of different things, I should say. Just a quick little overview. Steve Wilks, he was the interim head coach last year when Matt Rule, the Carolina Panthers coach, was fired after a 1-4 start. And when Steve Wilks took over for the Carolina Panthers, he made them somewhat of a competitive football team. I believe he led them to what? He had a 6-6 record as the interim head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. Improved drastically on every single offensive category there is. Probably the most notable will probably be the rushing yards per game. Went from 27th in the league to 6th. So he did show some signs that he was a good head coach for the Carolina Panthers moving forward. The players even vouched for him to be the head coach for the Carolina Panthers in 2023. So it seemed like it was almost impossible for him not to be, the guy for the job. So here's the thing with Frank Reich, I get it. Like I see both sides because I see Steve Wilks obviously had the head coaching job in Arizona in 2018. I felt like he had the short end of the stick. He was added to the Brian Flores lawsuit against the NFL for the discrimination thing because he felt like he was heavily discriminated against the Arizona Cardinals. Steve Kim, the ex-general manager, had the DUI, ended up getting suspended, and Steve Wilks ended up being the odd man out. And I tell you, the Arizona Cardinals team back then was pretty freaking terrible. And then it came down to the drafting process where allegedly Steve Wilks wanted Josh Allen to trade up in the draft to get Josh Allen, and then they ended up getting Josh Rosen. That's a Steve Kim pick. So it seems like history has repeated itself with this particular situation. And I'm going to get to Brian Flores in a second because I feel like this is going to help Brian Flores' case with the Arizona Cardinals. But Steve Wilks, look, he did a phenomenal job with the Arizona Cardinals, with the Carolina Panthers. Cool. Now, when we sit down and we compare Steve Wilks and Frank Reich, like we talking about 2000, what his key thing on his resume for Frank Reich is the 2017 Super Bowl run where Carson Wentz was 11-2. He was basically on pace to be the MVP that season. Unfortunately, he ended up getting hurt, and then of course the Nick Foles magical Super Bowl run, and they end up beating the New England Patriots. That's the key thing on his resume that led to him getting that head coaching job with the Indianapolis Colts. Now his head coaching record with the Indianapolis Colts was 40-33-1. Unfortunately, unable to. It's not even his fault, to be honest with you, because he only had like one season with Andrew Luck, and then Andrew Luck decided to retire. And then, of course, Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback. Phillip Rivers was the quarterback. Carson Wentz was the quarterback. Matt Ryan was the quarterback. So really hasn't had the same quarterback his 5 years with the Indianapolis Colts. He was able to get the most out of those teams with a new quarterback each time. I'd probably say the best was probably Phillip Rivers when they ended up going to the playoffs. But when you look, I'm just saying, we're going to call a spade a spade. When it comes down to the Rooney Rule, for those that don't know, the Rooney Rule, in a nutshell, is basically that if every team that's looking for coaching vacancies, they are required to go have a minority coach go through the interviewing process. It does not say in the Rooney Rule that they are supposed to hire them. Now, but it's just a requirement just to give them an opportunity. Now, in this particular case, honestly, I'm looking at both coaches. I just don't. I get it. Steve Wilks did something phenomenal with the Carolina Panthers, able to turn this team around. Quarterback shuffle, PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. It's phenomenal. Like it was phenomenal. Like you gotta give credit where credit is due. But when I sit here and again, they both have been treated unfairly. I felt like, especially in Indianapolis. I gotta roll with Frank Reich. I'm sorry. I just gotta go with Frank Reich because I just feel like just looking at the resume, Luck, Brissett, Rivers, Wentz, and I feel like even with Wentz, like they was literally what? A win away from going to the playoffs with Wentz. If Wentz would have played culpable, but if we're being honest, Frank Reich is a good coach. I'm not discrediting Steve Wilks, but I'm just saying it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard to decipher what is discrimination, what is not now in the NFL, because all the minority coaches always get passed over by the new college hot thing that's coming out that can bring a brand new offense to the table. That's what they always end up doing. But in this particular case, we have a experienced head coach that has above 500 record. Literally has experience with quarterbacks, can do his thing. In this particular case, I really don't see it. I really don't. It's like we're really just comparing resumes, and I'm like, I like Frank Reich better. I'm sorry, I don't like to talk about race on this channel, but at the end of the day, you got to be able to look at the two and be like, all right, this is not discrimination. Now, before we end up closing this thing out, I want to go ahead and get to Flores real quick, because the Arizona Cardinals situation, obviously the folks that's dealing with the lawsuit against the NFL for the discrimination thing, they released a statement. At this point, I feel like Flores has a advantage over everybody else with the Arizona job because of the fact that what happened to Steve Wilks. But again, it was hard. It's very, very hard. It's very, very hard to make that decision on this one, because Steve Wilks, okay, you did a good job, but when you look at Frank Reich, you look at what he's done, it's hard. It's very, very hard. So I gotta go with Frank Reich. I cannot put this in the racism category. Frank Reich he's a better coach. It was hard for me to get that off. He's a better coach.